Now, on WKRG News 5, election coverage you can count on. Brought to you by Alpha Insurance.
Thanks for joining us again. I'm Mel Showers.
And I'm Roseanne Haven. Polls have officially closed in the state of Alabama. We should have some more definitive numbers on the local races and amendments in the next hour. But breaking news at this hour, that is incumbent Republican Marco Rubio has won re-election. Rubio beat out Democrat Patrick Murphy in a tight race that captured most of the country's attention. Rubio was able to garner 51% of the vote to win his second term in the U.S. Senate.
But first, we are getting our first poll results from the eastern portion of the country in the presidential race. With about 7% of the votes in, Trump holds a small lead over Clinton with 51 electoral votes to 44 for Clinton.
And with that, we go to the News 5 Election Center where we find Peter Albrecht and John Gray. What can you tell us about these early numbers, guys?
All right, we want to focus on the Florida Senate race, Roseanne, and we're already seeing this called for Rubio and John. Pretty interesting because this was a race that Democrats were salivating over in the summertime. This seemed like one of the seats they were going to be able to take back, and it just never panned out for Murphy.
Well, Rubio handled himself very well. You know, he competed against Trump. He didn't like Trump. And even when he saddled up to Trump, he did it in a very safe way in Florida that didn't find offense in the southern tip of Florida. You know, Pete, our viewers just saw that they've called the poll for Marco Rubio, but only 60% of the boxes are in. The reason for that is they see how well he did in the south part of Florida. They know the Panhandle is going to be a landslide for Rubio. It was an easy call for them to make, but it shows what a good job he did in his race. It
was really quite a recovery. When you look back, he didn't win the Florida presidential primary. He said he wasn't going to run for his seat, but then after he lost the presidential race, he decided to go in. That could have been a big negative, and yet he was able to pull it out. Talk about the influence possibly there, John, of outside money, because these super PACs went after Murphy big time and spent a ton of money in Florida.
Well, it was control of the Senate, Pete, is what it comes down to. I mean, the Senate has such a razor-thin margin right now. Republicans couldn't afford to lose it. Now, Marco Rubio had a huge absentee problem in the United States Senate. He was campaigned against for it. But what happened were business entities came in and said, we can't lose control of the United States Senate back to the Democrats. So they spent a lot of money trying to keep Patrick Murphy from gaining any advantage. It wasn't that Patrick Murphy was close. They just didn't want him to catch fire. So they hit him early and they hit him hard.
And that's really the other race we should be talking about is the control of the Senate. If Hillary Clinton wins, for example, and the Republicans maintain their control in the Senate and the House, well, she's going to have a tough time, and the Democrats are going to have a tough time getting anything done.
It's one of the races in New Hampshire. You know, I mean, that's what we're looking at is just a few votes change that Senate. And remember, in the Senate, you have the confirmations of what's going to happen in the United States Supreme Court. That's on everybody's mind, both Democrat and Republicans. Matter of fact, I would say that people are probably going to be more worried tomorrow about nominees on the Supreme Court than they are who became president of the United States.
Okay, Rubio is the winner in the Senate race over Murphy in Florida. Mel and Roseanne, back to you.
All right.
Thank you very much, Pete and John.
And thank you so much for watching. We're going to keep you updated throughout the evening. Keep it right here on News 5.
Florida